And we have returned. Welcome back to the stream, everybody. That was Takumi 2016 off of Yakuza Kiwami soundtrack. That, of course, is the tune that plays when you're training with our dear old friend Kamaki. And welcome back to the stream to you, Baked. It's good to see you again. Hopefully you're having a lovely day. But yeah, I don't know, I played one of those songs just because I really enjoyed playing Yakuza last night. That's not what I'm doing today, but I really enjoyed playing Yakuza. And I did promise yesterday that there was another thing I was going to have a little ramble about before I started streaming today, because I just didn't want to squeeze it in amongst all... I was going on and on for about half an hour yesterday before I actually started playing Yakuza, so it's like, I'll save this for today, because it's actually kind of relevant to the fact that this is typically a Retro Sunday day. I'll try to be as brief as I can, but it is kind of a thing that I really get lost in the weeds with sometimes. But one thing I believe I've talked about before, and I've talked about it in terms of like anything really, any form of media that somebody has created, and that is, it's especially prevalent with video games these days. Well, I mean, it always has been, but and that's preservation. And the thing, and especially this is thematically appropriate considering this is indeed Retro Sunday, but it's just, certain things just simply get lost to time, don't they? And one debate that has been raging for years, and I feel like it ebbs and flows as time goes on, is the subject of ROMs and emulators. And the reason why I'm bringing this up now is because I saw recently that several companies, Nintendo unsurprisingly being one of them, but I think it was Nintendo. I actually have the article open on my phone, so let's see. Nintendo, Sega, Sony, the Entertainment Software Association, and Lego, of all people. Capcom was involved in this too, I believe. They have issued takedown orders for a bunch of ROMs on a website that's been around since the 90s, and that is Vimm's Lair. Now, if you're as old as I am, you know what Vimm's Lair is. You've probably used the site before. I remember back when we got our first computer back in the mid to late 90s, that was a site me and my brother found fairly early on, and that it's where we first learned about emulation in the first place and found all of these games that we weren't aware of. Now, on the one hand, I can kind of see, like, these companies own the rights to these games. They can do whatever they want with them. That's within their right. Problem is, there's a lot of little granular nuances to this, because, I mean, to hear it from the people who are against emulation, it's probably, like, to their mind, the people who get these things and use these things, those people are like, lol, I don't have to pay for video games. Some people are probably like that. I don't doubt that. But the issue comes in when you get situations where you can't legally, physically buy these things anymore. Like, they simply don't exist. So apparently a number of things, like any Mario game, Resident Evil, Pokemon, there's a bunch of other stuff, they had to be pulled from Vimm's Lair site. You know, it's gone. And a number of these games, as the article points out, you can't actually get them anywhere anymore. Like, these companies aren't offering them digitally, they're not part of any sort of, like, pack you can get, like I know Sega's not overly bad for that kind of thing, because they do have, like, this big arcade compilation of stuff that you can get nowadays, but, like, not even all of their stuff is on there. And the thing about that is, I'm looking at this from the perspective of a kid who grew up in a rural community in the 90s. And, like, you know, I was a teen in the 2000s. And the thing about that is, it's very difficult to find stuff like that when you're from one of these little communities, you know? Like, the very first time I ever played the original Harvest Moon, I played it through an emulator that we got off of Vimm's Lair. I never would have been aware of the Harvest Moon series if not for that. And if I wasn't aware of the Harvest Moon series, I wouldn't have got as heavily into Stardew Valley as I did, because we simply could not find any copies of any of the Harvest Moon games until, I think, the one came out for the GameCube, I think? Yeah, like that, if not for downloading the original Harvest Moon off of that site, we wouldn't have known that series existed. And the other perspective I have, like just taking this as Newfoundland as a whole, one specific thing I've noticed as I've been going around to the used game stores is that you're almost guaranteed to find a copy of a Super Nintendo game. Like, you hit up any of the used game stores in town, you're probably going to find a copy of Super Metroid, or like Super Mario World, or, you know, Final Fantasy VI, or something like that, you know? But, it really does go to show the impact certain systems have had on certain markets. Because if you try looking for specific Genesis games in town, you'll find stuff, but sometimes you won't even find the big ones. Like, I've tried looking for, I think, Streets of Rage. I wasn't able to find Streets of Rage in any of the places here. And the other aspect of that is how insane the used game market is nowadays. Like, if you're trying to buy something, like to buy a physical edition of a game that came out like 25 years ago, if you're purchasing it online, even if it's not like an inbox copy, depending on what game it is, you might be spending thousands or hundreds of dollars or something on it. It's usually not that bad if you go to one of the stores here, but at the same time, in one of the places I found an inbox copy of Final Fight 2 for the Super Nintendo. It's $250. The console version, the PlayStation 1 version of the original Diablo, I found that somewhere else. I think that was like $400. That wasn't even a good port of that game, but you're paying $400 for it. And the funny thing is, the Genesis games are dirt cheap usually, despite the fact that you can't find them anywhere. It's weird. That's because it's all gone wonky on account of the fact that people are realizing, oh shit, these things are going to cease to exist eventually, right? So I don't know, it's weird. Because there's so many games that I would not have ever have experienced if not for a site like Vimm's Lair. Because it's not only stuff that you simply can't find in the location you're living, it's just stuff that they stopped making, stuff that had limited runs, stuff that was never released in North America. Like, another few games that we really got into through Vimm's Lair were games that were never translated, and like some of them weren't released until decades after the fact, like Final Fantasy V. The first time I played that was through a fan translation. Tales of Fantasia is another great example, even though the fan translation for that was kind of suspect, but at the very least you could play the game and vaguely understand what was happening. And the big one that still, to this day, to my knowledge hasn't been localized and probably never will be, is Mother 3. Like, if you're an English-speaking person and you want to play that game, or hell, like anyone who speaks any language other than the original Japanese, you can't really enjoy that game legitimately because they never released it anywhere else, you know? And that's crazy to me. It's crazy that this can just not be anymore. I don't know. A weird way that this actually ties into Yakuza, too, is that, well, Yakuza Kiwami, of course, you can still get that anywhere. Something that an article related to the one I was reading points out, which is something I think I might have mentioned a while ago, because this was an older article, is that Yakuza, the original version of the game for the PS2, which I do own a copy, I do have it here somewhere, you can't get it anymore, anywhere, in any form. Like, it just... However many copies of that game exist in the world right now is all you can get. That's it. So, I don't know. Which, I mean, yeah, we have Kiwami, and Kiwami is good, but it's still not technically the original game. It's a remake that kind of, like, streamlines the process from zero on, right? So, I don't know. But yeah, this is my little ramble about that. Because I honestly wouldn't mind if, like, these emulators and stuff were taken down, but you were given an alternative to still get these games, because... I don't know, now there's certainly, like, lost movies and lost music and stuff too, but to put it in perspective, just think about, oh god, I don't know, what's a... because I have westerns on the brain right now for some whatever reason, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Just think about if that simply you could not get it anymore. It was just lost, you know? Like they only did a limited run of that movie, and then it was just gone. Hell, the effect that would have had on the future going forward would even affect video games, because if the good, the bad, and the ugly simply was not something you could view after, oh, say they stopped making copies of it in like 1980 and it never got reissued or whatever. Would Red Dead Redemption exist? Probably not. So I don't know. It's just everything kind of snowballs and everything is interconnected, and I just, because I'm a bit of a hoarder when it comes to even stuff I myself make, I just the idea that things can simply cease to be like that is mind-boggling to me, which is why I'm really bummed that some of these emulators just got axed from a site that's been an institution for decades, you know? I don't know, it's... yeah. Yeah. And again, like I said, I'd get it if you could still, like, if the companies that own the rights to these things gave you the options, like, oh, subscribe to this service, or here's, like, you pay $5 and you can download it from our site, or whatever, something like that. But no, it's just, you can't even get that shit anywhere, in a lot of cases. It's bums me out, is what I'm saying. Bums me out. But anyway, I said I was going to be brief about that, so I think that's all I'm going to say about that. The fact that it bums me out. And, capitalism is quite the nightmare sometimes. Well, a lot of times these days, but, you know, whatever. Yeah, so, hey, let's play some video games. Let's play a horribly depressing video game, because I think that's what this is going to be.